All right, let's try it again. Let me know now if you guys can hear me. Like I said, a few practice runs, found a problem every single time, and well, Mike should be on now. So if anybody in the chat could just respond, that would be amazing. Appreciate it. All right, cool. All right, so we're on. All right, so this is the intro to the live stream. My plan as of right now is going. Thanks, Morgan. The plan for the stream is going to be each morning from 8:30 till about 10:30 a.m. That's the Central Time, so pretty much 2 hours into the market. And depending on how, if we've killed it on that day, maybe we end a little early, maybe we go a little later. But that's the game plan here. What you're looking at on the screen. Now, I have found many different, as you guys know, I'm in a new studio downstairs. This has been about 3.5 weeks into the making. I think we did a pretty damn good job. But I do have a new office setup, a new rig down here. So I've got 6 monitors, and it's pretty badass. But with a new rig, obviously all my software, all the tools that I use needed to be loaded up. And like I said, each time that I've done a live stream, like a practice one, a private one, I found a different problem. So I've kind of stripped it to the bare bones. Normally you're going to see on the screen where it says trade total. I'm hoping that once I take a trade here this morning and there's nothing close. But if we take a trade here, that the trade total will come up, and then I also have another a display that should show the session total. That's not working for today, but I'm working on that. So I want to each day have exactly what I make in the trade and then what I make throughout the session. I am currently trading 2 live NinjaTrader cash accounts, which is the accounts that I trade every single day. And then I've got 5 funded accounts that are also linked to it. So the trade totals will show the pretty much the sum of all 7 of those accounts. So just when you see the trade total, I'm trading the NQ and the ES 1E mini. So that's what the quantity is going to be. But again, that's going to be multiplied, or I guess the right term would be scaling, with obviously 7 different accounts. But again, 2 cash accounts through Ninja and 3 through funded ticks, 1 through Tradeify, and another funded account with Take Profit Trader. So, and again, you know, I hate saying it, and I've got it on the screen, so I'll probably only say it once. If you guys want to support the channel, one of the best ways is if you are going to get an evaluation account with a prop firm, just use code TraderRob. It'll work with the prop firms that I currently use. All right, so let's take a look at the market. Let's start on the ES actually. All right, and then another thing too is once I get close to a trade, my screen's going to change into what I consider to be my trade screen, which is going to show you guys some tools that I use for my order confirmation, which I use footprint charts. They're all volume based. I don't use any lagging indicator. It's purely price action, volume, and that's really it. I mean, there's not much more that goes into my trading than those avenues right there. So on the ES, I've got an area right here that I want to take a look at. Obviously, you guys can see it showing up on. I'm on the 15-minute right now. I'll probably jump down to the 1-minute once we kind of map out our trading morning here. Obviously, an area of high volume, so this is interesting to me. We do have a point of control, obviously, right at this peak of this volume cluster right here. And those are the areas that I really like to trade. I'm looking for areas that have seen already a lot of volume and, most importantly, had a strong movement out of that volume. So that's extremely important to me. And then I will jump down. Let's see if there's... Okay, so there is... I like this right here. All right, so if we're looking at the volume profile, you guys are going to see that, and I talk about this a lot in my videos. If you guys watched the 30-day challenge that I did, I explain those each and every morning, but obviously now through live, it's going to be a little bit even easier to explain. I'm looking for ledges. Okay, so my volume profile is on the left-hand side of the screen. Doesn't really matter. You can have it on the right or the left. But the reason why I like to see on a bigger time frame, on the 15-minute, is that what I'm looking for is a volume profile that's extending out to the right. Okay, so which means that volume is increasing as we move to the right, or in this case, as we're moving down into the chart. And then what I'd like to do is I like to find areas that that will meet, that have a resistance, that have a volume cluster that is going to cause a reaction. And I'm not big on risk to reward. I'm never going to have a super negative risk to reward. Probably never going to have a super high crazy risk to reward. I don't even look at that. What I look at is pure price action on the volume profile as to where I want to put my stop. Okay. And what I like to do is I like to put my stop in areas that are protected. Some people just have a flat 3 points or 10 or 15 points on the NQ that they're looking to get out of the market, or the max that they're willing to risk. What I'm looking for is I'm looking for an area that I have a very high confidence that my stop loss is not going to get hit before my take profit is achieved. So that's kind of the methodology behind my trading, and it's worked out for me extremely well. And then as far as my take profits, I'm just looking for areas that are free flowing, where it's got little resistance to get back to my take profit. And it could be dynamic, so as price action's coming down, depending on what it does, when it starts to get closer to my entry, I will sometimes have to adjust it. I will look at my book map, which is the order book that I use to kind of see what the market participants are doing around those key levels that I'm looking to trade. So as of right now, I would be interested, let's do this here, at this 66.98 area, and then let's see if I can do this here. Thought this would already, oh, you know what? Don't need to do that here. I can do it here. One second. Let's put this as my entry. All right, cool. So I've got my entry area kind of marked out, which is a 66.98 area. And guys, trust me, I had lines that had the numbers on it. I'm having nothing but issues with that indicator, so I'm just keeping it super bare bones today. I'm not sure if you're going to see it perfectly on the screen, but an entry area that I'm looking at on the ES would be the 66.98, 98.99, let's call it. Areas of take profit. I see a pretty easy one already. Right here. Let's see. Cool. So I got the 6704. That's an area that I already see going back into this channel here. Back into this low peak in the volume profile. So 6704 would be an area that I'd like to target. And then for a TP2, I like this a lot. All right, 6706. So I'm kind of coming up with levels here that to me seem pretty pretty easy to obtain if price action can come back down here. And then as far as protection, protection I see right here. So I am going to perfect. All right, 66.94. So I'd be risking about maybe about 5 points, a little less than 5 points on this trade. And I've got my TP set about 5 points higher. So I guess you can call it very close to a 1-to-1 risk to reward. It just works out that way in this situation. So let's see what else. See what else I can see here. And I'll get to the NQ in a second. Give me 1 sec. All right, as of right now, this is the one trade that I would be looking for on the ES until obviously price action. We need to see a strong movement. Excuse me. We need to see a strong movement one way or the other. And I need it to leave an area for it to displace and to where I can actually see what volume is left at that area that obviously needs to get rebalanced. So if I take a look at the NQ, let's see here. Well, we had an area already that just tapped into. Okay, I see a great one right here. So that's an area that I would be very interested in. This would have been an area that I would have been very interested into, but it just tapped into it already this morning. And I don't want to, another thing too is I don't want to come into these live sessions with entries and my take profits and my stop losses already on the chart. I actually want to map them out with you so that you guys can kind of see what I'm looking at. So let's see if I can find any type of entry now in this little shaded area. We got no high impact news today, which is good in a way that should hopefully be a pretty normal trading day, minus headlines. Obviously, always got to keep an eye on those. All right, so right away, I see already an area that I am very interested in on the NQ. And that area is going to sit at the 24,823. So I'm going to pop an entry right there. Get rid of this guy. Load. All right. So I've got an entry loaded up here at the 24,823. An area that I see that is going to have a good amount of reaction to. I already found a take profit area here really quickly. Let's mark this one up as green. Okay. And as far as a secondary TP, very easy. All right, so we got our TP2 set, and then now let's look for area of protection. I already see the peak here on the volume profile. And I will load this up as my stop loss. Perfect. Okay, so here's the setup that we've got mapped out on the NQ. An entry at the 24,823. We've got a stop loss at the 24,815. TP1 24,830 and TP2 24,834. So TP1 we're looking at about 7 points on the initial target, and we're looking at about 11 and a half points on TP2, and we'd be risking here about 8 points. So again, very close to 1-to-1 risk to reward on TP1. TP2's got a positive risk to reward, and everything is dynamic with me. So my entry, obviously the areas that I map out that I'm interested in, those will obviously always stay. But what I'm very curious on is when price action starts to dance around my TP1 and my TP2. I'm very, very cognizant of what price action starts to do around these levels, because these levels, these green lines, are not just something that comes up from the air. It's an area where price action has already left, and it needs to get obviously rebalance. Which, when I say rebalance volume, it's an area in price action that needs to be re-tapped into. Price action left too quick. Some people call them fair value gaps, displacement. There's a shitload of terms for it. And I don't use any of those concepts. I don't use any of them. I don't use fair value gaps. But what I'm looking for is where price action had a very strong movement out of my entry, and then where it started to see resistance previously. So that's the rebalancing area that I'm looking for in my take profit 1 and take profit 2. And I'll explain it maybe a little bit better when I go down into the lower time frame. We're right now currently at the 15-minute. So this is a setup that I currently am looking at on the NQ. Again, entry 24,823. TP1 would be at the 24,830, and TP2 24,834. On the ES, we've already spotted one here this morning, and that's going to sit at the entry is going to be sitting at the 66.9875. So let's just call it 66.98 to 66.99. I'm also very particular about my entries. If you guys have been watching my channel for any amount of time, if you guys follow my weekly levels, if you guys are subscribed to my signal service, you guys know that majority of my trades come with extremely little drawdown. In fact, when price action crosses my entry and I don't see a very fast initial reaction, I already know that I missed the mark. Okay, or that the only other issue that could happen, well, there's a few issues that can happen when you lose a trade, at least in my criteria, is you get a situation where price action comes in about maybe, let's say, a point away on the ES or a few points on the NQ, and then makes a strong reaction where it takes out my TP1 and TP2, but misses my entry by a point. My thought process was correct. Okay, my entry thesis and all of my my setup was right, but I just missed the entry. I was off by my entry volume. You know, I missed where the big pocket, or where the actual initial reaction is going to happen. And that, quite frankly, does happen to me. I would say at least 20 to 30% of the time on my trades. And, you know, it's a little bit frustrating. I have kind of countered that by adding in what I call confirmation candles. And I'm going to get into the confirmation candles here in a little bit. I'm going to show you guys some examples of how I use the footprint and what you guys are going to be seeing when we finally get into a trade here today, hopefully. So again, just to go back, my entries are typically with very little drawdown, and that is how I judge my trades, to be honest with you, was how my drawdown percentage was, and, you know, how quickly of a reaction I was able to get. And you guys will hopefully see that through these live streams. You'll see that what I'm saying is actually what I do. So, all right, so we got another big movement here. Let's take a look at the NQ. Let's pop this guy here. So we got obviously a very strong movement, right? Tapped into this high volume node. These things do not happen by chance. These are areas that you're going to have a very hard time price action getting through. But now we got a very strong reaction to the upside, okay? So we got this really big green candle on the 15-minute, and now it's left some clues. Let me jump down to the 5-minute. All right, so what are the clues that this guy might have left here now for me? Well, I see an area already that it left right here. So we're looking at the 24,932 down to the 24,895. Again, the same area. It coincides with a high volume. Comes up with a high volume area or a high volume node. Obviously, point of control. Got a question on what my volume profile is set to, and I get this a lot. I use the composite volume profile. Okay, and typically on my higher time frame charts, like the 15-minute or the 1 hour, I'm using it on a 120-day composite. Okay, on my lower time frame charts, I'm using it on a 45-day composite, and so it's taking volume from an area that a historical time period, because I'm very interested in knowing where the real big, and I hate using this term, but I want to know where the real big volume participants are, where the smart money is. I hate that freaking term so much, but it's true. I'm looking to see where the market participants are extremely interested in. And right away, I mean, the chart tells you, I mean, it's pretty simple. You look at this chart and you're going to say, okay, well, there's a shit ton of volume that was conducted in this area right here. So the next time that it taps into, it's probably going to be looking to rebalance some of this volume. And now we just had a really strong move to the upside. We're probably going to break structure here. And those are some of the key aspects that I'm looking at to kind of formulate my trade. So, and then if I kind of narrow down even a little bit further for an actual entry, well, I already see two areas here. Get rid of some of these old lines that I had. All right, so I've got an area right here, and I've got an area right here, where I can see where price action has, and I can get rid of this bigger guy. Okay, so the shaded boxes here are two areas within this volume profile that I have already identified where we had a strong move to the upside out of these two areas, okay? The initial one is a little bit higher than what I would normally like to see, but I can easily say for a scalp, I can have an entry at the 24,935. Put this one up on my screen. Let's load this entry. Okay. So I've got the entry marked off at 24,935. Pretty easy, quick take profit would be, this is going to be a pretty small one, unfortunately. But let's see what we can find here. So TP would be sitting at 24,941. And let's open this up a little bit so you guys can see a little better. And then the secondary take profit. It's going to sit at the 24,946. And then as far as protection is concerned, I'm looking at stop loss. Okay. I'm looking at the 24,927 area. Okay, so that's a secondary. That's two setups that we've already been able to identify on the NQ already this morning. So we've got one sitting right on this beginning part of this ledge at the 24,935. TP1, which is kind of small, 24,941. That's about 6.5 points. And then TP2 is at 24,948, which sits about, that's a lot better. That's about 13 points for my TP2. And then my stop loss I've got situated at the 24,927. Okay. Now for the secondary area that I found sitting right above the point of control, or let's just call it the high volume node, highest most peak. I'm not going to be looking right now necessarily for my TPs, because I would want to see what price action does here, but I am going to identify the actual entry, which should be sitting, get rid of this, and our entry is going to be sitting right here, which is going to be at the 24,914. Okay, and again, I'm not going to put my TPs for this trade setup here yet. One, I don't want it to be cluttering up my screen, and two, I want to see what price action does when we revisit this area here today. But what I can do to be proactive is I can map out my stop loss area, which I have already done. Stop loss load. Perfect. Okay. So let's fix this chart up here a little bit. Still moving strong to the upside here. So on the NQ, we've identified two spots, two different setups. One at the 24,935 right here. Second one is at the 24,914. Again, on the ES, I'll take a look and see now that we had this big move. Let's just see if anything was left in this region right here. But we do already have a setup that we've mapped out at the 66.98 to 99. So it's 66.98.75 is where my actual entry is at. And then now we can take a look and see what... All right. Got this area now that price action just kind of left, and now let's see where. Oh yeah, right here we've got an area, and let me map out my entry here. So this guy is gonna sit right here. Template load. Clean that up. Perfect. So an area that I've identified is the 67.42. As far as my take profit level, this one's going to be super easy, but it's also really small. Load. Take profit. Real small. It's about 2 points. I can actually adjust this maybe one more right there. Okay, so 2 points. Not the biggest trade, obviously, on the ES, but as you guys have probably heard me say, 3 points on the ES a day can honestly pay a lot of people's bills if you play your cards smartly. $50 a point, 3 points, 150. Scale it by maybe two accounts, 3 accounts, you're at $450 a day. Honestly, not very difficult to do. So here, let me give you guys my TP2 on this one. TP2 would be sitting at the 67.47. Okay, so a little bit better of a range here. You're looking at about 5 points for TP2. We're looking at about a little over 2 points on TP1. Market obviously seems to be ripping to the upside, so hopefully we get a pullback here where we can start to kind of test these theories of mine. And then as far as a stop loss, again, area of protection, and I'm going to be looking right here. All right, so about 5 points on my stop. That's what I'm seeing right now on the market. All right, let's get to questions now, because I've already kind of mapped out the morning session, and I feel pretty confident about. We've got 4 setups. We've got 2 setups on the ES that are pretty fresh, and then we've got 2 setups on the NQ. So yes, the theory here is going to be today's session will not be recorded, okay? But going forward, they will be recorded. I was actually under the impression that my streaming software, which I use OBS, which everybody uses, I really thought that it would automatically record once I clicked on the start streaming, and it does not, because now I still see my button here saying start recording. And I could press it right now, and yes, I could record the session, but I don't actually want to do that while I'm live right now, because I don't know what's going to happen. So what I will do is tonight I will do another private live session, and I will mess around with that to make sure that that it doesn't degrade my quality, or that nothing stupid happens. I have a tendency of stupid things happening to me sometimes, so I'd like to avoid that right now. Now, of course, you will see this. The entire video will be posted into YouTube after the stream, so you will be able to actually go back and see the. If you do what I do, mostly just go right to where the trade happens, to the juicy areas. But to be honest with you guys, if you guys are following me and you'd like to learn how to incorporate volume into your trading strategy, which in my opinion, take it for what it's worth, in my opinion, is the only way to trade the markets. I take that back. It's not the only way to trade the markets, because there's a shit ton of strategies that work. So I take back that statement. I think it's the best way to trade the ES and the NQ. And if you guys know my story, that was not what I used to think at all. I used to be I started off my trading career as a discretionary trader, was terrible at it. Was just constantly pumping money into my NinjaTrader cash accounts, and it was a really rough go in the beginning. And I then started to kind of look at different strategies, and I developed my mechanical strategies, which most people know me by on my channel, which is my mechanical strategies in gold, in oil, and the 15-minute Rob reversal, which has been having a tough go at it this month. But the mechanical strategies taught me a lot of extremely valuable lessons in trading. One, it really taught me discipline. That was the number one thing that I will take out of my mechanical trading strategy. Was it made me a 10 times better trader, because I had very, very specific rules and conditions placed into every single trade that I was looking at. I had specific times like in gold, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Time. That was the only window that I was looking to take a trade in gold. And then I would have a very specific condition to get into a trade, looking at an inside bar within that trading session. And then I had a very particular entry condition to that strategy, where I would place pretty much bracket orders at the top and the bottom of those inside bars, and I would wait for price action to pierce into one of those, and then I would get into the trade. And then I had specific conditions on my take profit and my stop losses. So all the discretionary part was completely taken away, and it became very mechanical, which is what the name mechanical strategy comes from. And what that helped me do was, it took me from trading 10 or 15 times per day with honestly 15 different strategy thoughts in my mind. I was switching over to strategy and not sticking to anything, really not having confidence in anything. And then when I started to do the mechanical strategies, well, my trades automatically went from 15 down to 3, possibly 4, depending if I was taking both sessions of oil. And what did I notice? I noticed very quickly, over a very small sample size of, let's say, a few months, that my trade count was down, my commissions were down. It's not like an eval or a funded account where you don't really think about the commissions too much. On your live accounts, yeah, the commissions weigh in on you if you're taking 10 or 15 trades per day. So that I started to then limit the quantity of my trades, which then started reducing my commissions. And then I started to see something very particular happen. I started to see consistency. I started to see no crazy equity curves. Wasn't up $1,000 and then down $1,000, and just bouncing around on my P&L curve. Started to get very steady, very incremental movements to the upside. I was starting to see positive results. One, I was not in the red anymore on my cash accounts, which is huge as a trader. And I then started to make some money, started to profit from my strategies. And then as my sample size started to increase, I've been trading these for about 4 years now, 3.5 years now. I started to see the results, and they were great. And then I'm a very big student of the charts. I know everybody says it. I don't know if everybody actually does it, but I am addicted to the charts that I'm looking at right now. I can do this all day long. I can't because I have other responsibilities, but I can literally look at charts all day long, all night long. I'm on the weekends. I'm on at 2 o'clock in the morning. It's crazy. It's almost like, I don't want to say it's an addiction, but yeah, I guess it's pretty close to an addiction. And they always say it. You start getting better as a trader as time goes on. True or not true, it could be, that's a different discussion. I know a lot of shitty traders that have been doing this for a long time, but the experience, what you see on the charts that constantly replicates, and you start to see the same things happening all the time. You don't get that by being a trader for 3 months or for 4 months, looking at a YouTube video, looking at my channel. You just can't get that. You have to have screen time. You have to have some charting time for things to start to kind of soak in. And originally, what I started to notice were my levels, areas in the market. So, I mean, again, my eyes just get glued to this stuff, but if I show you guys here a level, that right here on this candlestick, on these two right here, this would be a level for me of interest, okay? This is on the ES. And why this would be a level of interest for me would be that, you know what, let me thought I did this, but save. Default. Okay. I thought I already did that, but apparently things just go awry sometimes. All right, so what I was talking about, levels. These would be areas in the market in price action where I would say, you know, price, you could see the market's has a nice movement to the upside, okay? We then get a pullback in the market, and then we get a movement to the upside, okay? So it's kind of like a V-shaped. This is not maybe the best example per se, but it was the first one that I just saw on my chart. And what I started to see was, I'm like, okay, well, the market for some reason had a big push to the upside originating from these two candles, this red candle and this up green candle. What's going on here? There's got to be some kind of significance to something that happened into the market right here. Originally, for the first year or maybe 9 months, I was trading the levels successfully, making some money on it. But it wasn't until I then started to take a look at the volume profile, which is sitting right here. And then I would say, okay, well, these areas that you start to see these big reactions from, these kind of V-shaped big reactions to, they always seem to happen where the volume profile is sticking out, okay? And that's when I started putting 2 and 2 together. I knew that just the level alone was strong, okay? These level alone, I could trade the levels that I post every single morning on Discord, and just for fun, maybe, you know, a few weeks down the road, I'll do some sessions or have a session a week where I literally just trade my levels. And I'll show you guys how easy it really is to do that. But I was noticing these particular high interest areas in the market that I was very interested in, or I kept seeing this reaction to. And then what I did was, there's a lot of different ways to mark up a level. What I found to be the most consistent and had the highest reaction was putting my line, my horizontal line, where the two bodies intersect at either the lowest point or at the highest point, depending on which way, if I'm looking for a short or if I'm looking for a long. Obviously right here, we'd be looking for a long. Price action's above. We think that there's gonna be another reaction, another volume reaction to this level right here. 67.11, that's what I got marked out right here. And that is where I started to kind of get my concept of, that's how I started to incorporate the volume profile. And what I would do then is I would find a 15-minute level. So I would be on the chart at the 15-minute, which is what I'm at right now. And I would just find these areas. So let me see if I can find another one here. Right here. Easy one. Right there. Okay, so it's at the bottom. I don't intersect wicks. I'm looking for my line to be in both bodies of the candle, at the most lowest point where both bodies, where that line fits into both bodies, or the highest point. If we were looking to the high right here, it would be right there of these two candles right here. Okay, just as a visual explanation. So this would be a level that I would see on the 15-minute. And then I would find a level on the 15-minute, and then I would jump down to the 5-minute and find the exact same thing. The exact same concept of these V-shapes where they find out, and then I would mark them. And the ones that corresponded to high volume areas, those are the ones that I was really interested in trading. Okay, so I'm kind of giving you guys my evolution of how I started to trade the way that I trade now. And again, started to get successful at it. Traded that about 6 or 7 months. And then I got introduced about 6 months, not introduced, I've always heard it. My brother-in-law got me into trading 4 or 5 years ago. He trades equities, so he's on the stock market. And he always used Bookmap. And I would always look at, I would, in the beginning stages of my trading career, I would literally go to his house every single morning. I'd be there at like 7:30, and we would trade together. I'd just like to see him, what he's looking at on the charts. Obviously, I branched off into futures. He's into equities, so we don't really trade. We don't trade the same instruments per se, but the concepts are all pretty much the same. What I do here on my screen, you can do this on you can do it on oil, golds, the Dow, the RTY, Treasury. Doesn't matter what kind of instrument, and it works on the equities, because all the time he's sending me text message, hey, let me know what your level would be on Tesla. What's your tradable level on Tesla or Nvidia? Give it to him, and I always get a text message maybe a week later, a couple days later, depending on how price action's happening. Dude, your level hit perfectly right on the dot. Almost zero drawdown. So these concepts work on any instrument, which again is extremely important for your strategies. If you guys are developing a strategy and it only works on one instrument, be leery of that strategy. I'll tell you that right now. So about 6 months ago, I did the subscription to Bookmap and loaded it up on my screen. Had it on my screen for about 3 months, paying that $150 subscription fee per month, and just did not see anything that I could use of value in the beginning. Yes, it's awesome to see the bubbles, see the big dots on your screen. Let's take a look real quick with the NQ. Just ripping, huh? We would see you see the bubbles on there, you see the lines, the darkened lines, and then you see orders. But I couldn't really make sense of how I could incorporate that in the beginning. And I don't think it was because, it's not that I'm stupid, but I think honestly, I just didn't even give it the time. I felt comfortable with the strategy that I had and the way that I was trading. I was profitable. I was doing really well with my trades. My signal service was great. Super high win percentage. Always hovering around 80%. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to mess with this. So it was on my screen, but I didn't really pay much attention to it. And then it clicked. I would, out of 10 of my setups, 1 or 2 of them are bound to fail. And, they're bound to either blow up, or not blow up, but pierce through my entry straight to my stop loss. And, I'm kind of left, what the heck just happened here? And that's when it clicked. Okay, well, if I take a look at these levels, like the 67.42, I wonder what is happening on Bookmap at that exact level, at 67.42. 67, let's see. Okay, currently we got 52 contracts resting right there. I'd say it's average. There's nothing super interesting currently at the 67.42, but you got to remember price action now is starting to increase. Or, I'm sorry, price action's kind of left us to the upside. So as we get back down here, you're going to start to see the order books start to fill up at the 67.42, or in that price point, in that little range. And that's how I adjust my entries. That's how sometimes when I don't see that there's interest on the Bookmap at the level that I've already marked out, I now know, hey, this might not be an A+ setup anymore. Now this is probably lowered down to like a B. And it starts to give me clues in the preparation of a trade. And then I started to see, well, what happens when I get into a trade? Well, when I get into a trade, so let's say it's price action. Price action's coming down to our level here at 67.42. So we're coming down here. We tap into to my entry. Let's say I go long. What I'm looking for is, as we're leaving this area, I would like to see the buyers increasing behind me or I should say underneath my my entry, reinforcing that level that I just tapped into. And it starts to give you confidence that you can now maybe go for TP2. Maybe this is a bigger trade now that, you know, or vice versa, you get into a trade and then you see volume start to drop below you. That's an indication at that point, maybe now's a good time to get out. Okay. So that's kind of how I use my Bookmap for my entries. And then the last piece of the puzzle for my setups in price action is the footprint charts. Probably, it's a big statement. For me, probably the most undervalued, underutilized tool that you can use in trading. So I told you that I bought the Bookmap subscription, had it up on the one of my charts on the side, pretty much collecting dust, wasn't using it. Same thing with the footprint chart. Had the footprint chart up. I'm like, you know, I see, you know, it's giving me, it's talking about volume. I'm super interested in volume. That's why I'm calling myself a volume-based trader. But again, it was just these weird boxes and numbers, and I couldn't make sense of any of the numbers, and I just didn't put them much time into it. And then again, you start looking at the charts long enough, and and I'm going to give you guys a tip. I'm going to give you guys a pro tip right here. Your winning trades, journal your entries. You hear everybody say it, nobody does it, or very few people do it. Journal your entries. That is an absolute game changer. You will not know what you journal today that you will need in 2 years, or in a year, or next week, or next month. What happened at FOMC minutes last month? What happened during CPI? What happened when the report came out this way? How did the market react? How did my levels hold up? Man, I took an entry and it went straight to my stop loss. What the heck happened? Well, once you start putting tools around you that are kind of confirming your setup, you then look to those tools and say, okay, I'm going to take a screenshot of what the footprint chart was doing and what my Bookmap was doing during that setup. Start compiling a list of items that you can put into your journal that you can then just do a quick filter on all my losing trades, see what you see that is familiar or consistent. The things that are consistent, those are the things to pay attention to. I care more about my losing trades than my winning trades. I analyze the shit out of my losing trades beyond belief, because I want to see what the market, what pattern, what I constantly am seeing that is making my trades win or lose. And same thing with footprint. Started to see something consistently happen on the footprint chart on majority of my winning trades, and that is what I call my confirmation candle. So if I switch over here to, this is going to be my trading screen. So when we get close to a setup, IB was just set 930. So initial range for the market set. I do have a trade on the NQ that I love to take on the initial balance, but you know what? Let me just map it out here really fast. We're really close to it though. Don't like that so much, but let's see. Let's put this right here at the top. Let's look at the NQ. Charts should have been done already. Save as my default. All right, give me a sec, guys. Let me just see here what I see. So the IB is the initial balance of the market. So the first hour of the trading market, you obviously form a range that we just tapped into. Let's see what happens here. What is this now? Shit. I lost that trade. Oh. Got in way late now on this one. Not sure what the hell just happened there. Not a super fan of this one right now. Let me just add a few more points up there. All right. Let's see what happens here. Ooh, I like that move. All right. Are you kidding me? What just happened there? Showed plus 110, and now it just went to break even. What the heck was that? Oh, and it would have hit too. All right, well, again, this is full disclosure. This is not... I did not have... I had that confirmation thing on, so I didn't get in on my initial entry, which I'm going to kind of show you guys. This was... Sorry. I'll explain this one maybe a little bit better. So let me just go... Let me open up the NQ. So this is the trading floor for the NQ. This is the footprint chart that I was just talking about. So what I'm looking for, a perfect example of it right here today, was the footprint chart going right up into my entry. I'm a little bummed about that. Not gonna lie. A little bummed about that trade. That would have gotten me the 200 bucks that I needed. Okay. So here's the footprint chart, as you guys can see. We finally crossed the IB, which is the initial balance, and we had a red candle. Okay, so what I'm looking for on the reaction going up into initial balance is for a reaction downwards. Remember, at your initial balance, you're typically going to have a lot of volume. Okay, so that's why I'm always very interested in it. And if you guys look at it, these footprint charts to show you the orders at each individual tick. Okay, so my footprint chart on the NQ is set to 5 points. So it's a 20 range, because with NinjaTrader you've got to use a range chart for that, and I use it so it's about 5 points. So what I'm looking for my confirmation candle is a red down candle with positive delta, which delta's shown here below. It's in green at 70, meaning that we had a strong push to the upside. Okay, so there was a positive side to the trade. More buyers were into that particular candle right here than sellers, but the candle still ended up closing red. So it's what I call my delta divergence. It's my confirmation candle. And going back to what I was explaining to you guys earlier, it's an area that it's a confirmation, or it's an entry signal to me to get into the trade, meaning that the market has absorbed the buyers and it still has a desire to go to the downside. Okay, and that was actually a perfect example of it. I mean, I would have hit so typically my IB trades 15 points. I currently have just had my regular NQ, which is 10.8 TM on there. I would have hit my 10 points very easily, but That was actually a really dumb move, but that's okay. I will still journal this one, and you know, for me, it would have been a positive trade, but I actually ended up breaking right even. So let me delete this guy now. We don't need him anymore. So this right here, guys, I should say right here, is probably the number one thing that has taken my trading to an entirely new level on my levels, on my signals, on the trades that I take. I am 95% of the time looking for what I just showed you on the footprint chart to get into a trade. Okay, and it was pretty simple. You're trying to go short, you want to see a red candle with green positive delta. You want to go long, you're looking for a green footprint candle with negative delta, meaning that there was a strong push to the downside. The market absorbed it very quickly, and the candle still ended up closing in the direction that you want it to go. It is the number one best confirmation that you will find. So I use this all the time. Whenever I get close to a setup, you will see me move down to this screen, and you'll be able to watch the footprint chart with me and find which, and that way you guys can understand, all right, well, he got into the trade based on that criteria. Okay, so hopefully that is a heads up to how I kind of do my confirmation candles. All right, let's take a look. Let's see if there's any questions up here. Can you post these trades? Yes. Starting tomorrow, I will be posting the trades, but the video of the stream will be recapped each day on YouTube. Do you still use the mechanical trades? Absolutely, every single day. Every single day. The mechanical strategies right now are currently running on my setup upstairs. I don't have them running here because I need all of my chart space with my windows. I don't want to have any distractions while I'm on live. So I have no idea if gold won today or if oil won. I think someone put that gold was a winner today. But I'll find out the second I go back upstairs. And so yes, I do. I trade those every single morning. CL just lost. This has been a bad 2 weeks for the mechanical trades. Yeah, so this month, well, to be honest with you, even last month was not great. Let me pull up the stats here. That's another thing too, is if you join my Discord, there should be a link below. I think there's a shit ton of value and resources there that you guys can go ahead and use. Rob's performance stats. All right, so if I'm taking it's not on the screen, guys. I'm sorry. I don't want to mess around with the main screen right now because I don't want things to go haywire. So the mechanical strategies for September. Oil session 1 was down 130 ticks. On the CL, you know that means that you would have lost $1,300 trading oil session 1, which is a session that I don't trade. It just hasn't been performing well over the last year and a half. Oil session 2 was only up 11 ticks, so let's just call that break even. Gold was down 121 ticks, so that was down 1,210 for September. If you guys remember, that was the month that I was trading my 30-day challenge. The mechanical strategies ended up losing 500 bucks. The Rob reversal was up 140 points. So trading one NQ, you would have made a profit in September of 2,800 bucks minus commissions. So overall, if you add up all of those, all of the strategies, you're up 1,700 bucks, depending on if what session you're trading or if you're trading all 3 of the mechanical strategies. August, phenomenal month. August, you would have been up $9,600 trading one E-mini on all 3 of the sessions. Gold session 2, gold, oil session 2, and the 15-minute Rob reversal. It would have been up $9,600. So in July, you would have been down $190. June, you would have been up $1,600. So it's a sample size of not a week or 2 weeks or a month. It's a sample size of months and years. And that's so. Yes, I will agree with you that the mechanical strategies this month have not been performing well. And confirmation that gold was a winner. Nice. That's awesome. All right, so I gave you guys a pretty top-down analysis on how I've kind of evolved as a trader, and it's not that I don't believe in mechanical strategies anymore. That's not the case at all. I think that the mechanical strategies for me have done their job in forming me as a very, very good trader with some very good discipline. I love them because there's not huge swings typically. And like I said, they made me a better trader. So, I mean, that's worth its weight in gold for me. So I will always love them. But my true passion is what you're seeing me do right now. And that's finding these areas, okay? Finding these setups on the ES. Because again, most people that you follow, most people that we all follow on YouTube as traders, they typically don't put their neck out on the line and say, this is going to be my exact entry, this is going to be my exact take profit, this is going to be my exact take profit too, and this is going to be my exact stop loss. You see them jumping into trades left and right with multiple different strategies because they all say, well, I used this bear flag on this trade, or I had a continuation on this trade, and you're like, well, what the hell was that? Like, that's kind of different than the last trade that you just took. And what made you get in on this exact entry? Yeah, you've got a feel for it. That's awesome that you've got a great feel for it. But what value is that to the person that's actually watching the stream when you have no idea how or why they are taking a setup? And it's very rare, at least that I have seen, where somebody will put on their chart, this is where I'm going to take an entry, this is where I'm going to take a take profit, this is where I'm going to take another take profit, and this is where I'm going to take my stop loss at, and stick to it. And I know it's not a knock to anyone else. I just think that it's an entertainment business and it's for the show, but I'm hoping that you guys get some value out of the actual education behind it, the value there. I shouldn't say the education, but the knowledge that I have grasped over so many years that hopefully it's not going to shorten your period, but it might make your period a little bit easier of trading. Okay. So I'm going to take a quick coffee break. And so what we're looking for on the NQ, we've got 2 setups. We've got an entry at the 24,935. We've got another one at the 24,914. This is another area out of this volume pocket that just had a big strong move up. And I've got an area at the 24,823. All right. And then on the ES, we've got an area that we're looking at the 6742. And an area at, I can delete this. This was my example. At the 6698. So those are the 2 areas that we're looking at. We're starting to see a pullback here on the ES. So let me just see what I anticipate here. All right, so we're going to have a hard time getting through the 20, sorry. Let's take a look at the ES, not the NQ. So we already just showed, we showed some resistance right at this little peak that's moving up to the top right here on the volume profile. So right around TP1, we should start to see some resistance here. Let's see. Okay. Building up some volume right here too at the 6742. So I'm going to be super interested in there. Give me a few minutes. Let me refresh my cup of coffee, and I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. All right, we're seeing a pretty decent pullback here on the ES. Let's jump to the okay, so the 67.42.50 is where all of the volume now is being placed. Very strongly. So they're defending this level here at the 67.42, 42.50, very strong. So now what I'm going to want to see is once price action starts getting close to my entry, I want to see what kind of reaction we get to my blue line at the 67.42, and I'd like to see that same footprint confirmation candle that I just explained to you guys. So in this scenario, we're looking for a long, so it would be a green footprint candle with negative delta. That's what I would be looking for my confirmation once we get to this entry right here. Hopefully we get to this entry. Let's jump down maybe to the 5 minute for right now. So just to recap, we did take one trade on the NQ off of my initial balance short for break even. I was up about, it's kind of a dumb trade because I did not have my ATM set correctly. I do have an order entry management indicator that I use. I've used two. Well, I've used one for very, very long. And I have been testing out a secondary one through Affordable Indicators, and been testing it the last couple of days. Everything seemed to be working really well. I really like it because it makes the trade, once the trade shows up on the screen, it shows your profit. It shows your the points. It's very visually beautiful. But I did have an issue loading it here this morning, so I'm gonna kind of troubleshoot that. To make matters worse, we had a power outage last night at some time because my oven and my microwave were blinking this morning, and all my charts, my computer was off. So I don't necessarily know, maybe if something kind of might have gotten screwed up in the settings there. So hopefully by tomorrow that'll all be under control and a little bit smoother. All right, come on, ES. What about the NQ? What's the NQ doing here? Okay, so on the NQ, remember we've got, let's see, closest setup that we've got is at 24,935. Nothing of interest right now. We've been pretty much consolidating right up here for a good last half an hour. So I'd like to see a pullback. There's a little pocket right here. A little pocket right there that does seem a little interesting to me. No, I don't like that at all. I don't like that. Again, I'm really looking for I'm looking for A+ setups on every trade that I take. That's the goal. Right now, the ES setup to me looks fantastic. 67.42 to the 67.42.50 is where I would like to see a good reaction to. So let's see, hopefully, we switch this ATM. Okay, we're good there. Morgan, yes, we've been having a pretty good discussion on my Discord, all in my signal service group. I would say currently 95% of all my trades have the confirmation candle attached to them. Much easier on the ES, just because of the way the movement happens with price action. Let me pull up the ES here, right here. Footprint confirmation candles on the ES are much easier to get. A little bit more complicated, not complicated, I shouldn't say that. It's a little bit more difficult on the NQ, specifically in the first 15 minutes of the market open. Price action is just moving so quickly that your eyes have a very hard time coordinating the confirmation on the footprint to you actually getting into the entry. Especially during those first 15 minutes of the market open, and obviously anytime during high impact news, which typically don't trade necessarily. I like to wait at least 5-10 minutes after the news hits to kind of see. And then the only other issue that I have with the NQ with my footprint confirmations is I'm looking for areas of high volume, high reaction, very quick, very confident movements. And with confident movements means very quick reactions or movements in the market. So, and that affects the footprint chart because that starts moving really fast. To make 5 points on the NQ, you can make it in a second, 2 seconds, as evident with that initial balance trade that I took short here on the NQ this morning. So to answer your question, yes, 95% of all my trades include the confirmation. On the NQ, if I feel extremely confident that I know I'm going to get a reaction, I'll put a limit order there, just because it does help out your risk to reward. I'll kind of give you an example of what I'm talking about. On this trade setup that we've got mapped out here on the NQ, okay, we're looking at, let's see if there's, let's look at this one real quick. So we mapped out this setup at the 24,823, right? Now, if your footprint chart comes down and taps into this entry line, the best scenario would be is for the candle to get down maybe a point or two, be underneath your entry, and then make the confirmation, because then you're only about 2 points above your entry, and then you can target your TP1 or TP2 depending on what target you're aiming for. Sometimes what you'll see on the footprint chart, especially on the NQ, is you get the reaction right at the entry, and you don't get the confirmation candle till about 5 points in your direction already. So that starts to kind of worsen your risk to reward on individual trades, but your win percentage will go through the roof. If you follow that strategy alone, it'll go through the roof. I can guarantee you that. So on the ES, completely different story. It's let's pull up the ES, much more easier, because on the ES, my footprint chart is set to 4 ticks, so 1 point. That's what the range of my footprint chart is. On the NQ, it is a 20 range, so that's 5 points. 20 ticks, so 5 points is the range that I use on my NQ footprint charts. And again, you have to add you have to have a display that will show you your total delta for that bar. Okay, that's huge, because a footprint chart alone will also, you'll notice, especially if you guys watch my channel here regularly, you'll see that it'll get me out of trades. It won't let me get into a trade if I don't see the confirmation. And yeah, some of them go right exactly to where I think they're going to go. It's part of the game. But it gets me out of more bad trades than I end up missing out on, if that makes sense. So hopefully that clears that part up. Let's see. NQ footprints so fast and sloppy. So yeah, I mean, I just kind of went about 5-10 minutes into that, but it gets really fast during those first 15 minutes of the market open. And throughout the day, like today, we don't have any high impact news. So you'll see that, I mean, it worked perfectly on the initial balance trade that I took earlier. I mean, I was able to see the footprint chart. I wanted to hit the sell button, but since I'm on a new PC down here downstairs, I didn't have I still had this stupid option that comes in by default through NinjaTrader that confirms the trade. So right there, that cost me maybe 3-4 points, and wasn't able to get in. I turned that off, so hopefully that doesn't come back on. But then again, today's the first day going live, so the fact that I haven't had any major issues. All right, so we're getting a nice little pullback here on the ES. Let's take a look at this and let's see what we can get here. I'm a big fan of hotkeys too. So I've got a Stream Deck that obviously I got a lot of hotkeys attached to it, and I moved it last night from my PC upstairs down to the one here in the studio now, and I plugged it in and all my defaults were all gone, so I gotta redo all that. So right now I'm just literally on the chart trader, NinjaTrader chart trader, and getting into a trade through the buttons, which I don't really enjoy, but it'll get better. Things will get cleaner. What do you guys think about the studio? That looks pretty friggin' sick. I've got, I guess right over here, I've got all my kind of trinkets that I'm a very superstitious type of person. So I've got my trinkets that I had from upstairs that I've got up on my shelf. I've got this neon sign that my wonderful sister bought me for Christmas about 2-3 years ago, and just never had this place to put it. So she was super excited when I sent her a screenshot of how I implemented it into my new studio. And the only issue is that I'm in my basement. The basement's unfinished. It's a pretty big basement, but it was completely unfinished. I do have do have a golf simulator down here for the wintertime. I built out a pretty nice workout area for my son. He works out about 1 or 2 times a day. He's on the football team, and so he loves coming down here. The only thing that wasn't finished is we had this bathroom down here that the previous owners put in. It's a pretty big bathroom. It's got like an 8-person, what do you call that? Steam room. It's got a sauna. If like an 8-person, it's huge. And I've never used it just because I go in there, and even though it's a big sauna from what I heard, from what, you know, my wife tells me and some people that we've shown it to, they say it's huge, but it to me is like I feel like I'm in a coffin. So I've never actually used it. So I got a bathroom down here. Like I said, I got the golf simulator, and it's cozy. It's a little chilly, but it's cozy down here. I got to give my wife a big shout out because she helped out with a lot of the design. So pretty excited about it. All right, come on, yes. Give me a little bit more of a pullback here. Let's see what's going on in the NQ. NQ is just pretty much, it's been consolidating here for a good portion of the last hour. And as a volume trader, this is tough, obviously, because I need movement. I need movements in and out of areas for the market to leave me some clues as to some trades that I can take. So the NQ right now is still pretty far from our setup, our initial setup of the 24,935 down here. The ES, we can get a small little pullback here. We might have a trade here this morning, which would be fantastic. We'll say I do miss my setup upstairs, though. It's the only thing I've known for the last 4 years. And it served me really, really well. And then my initial thought was, all right, I mean, I've got a pretty nice computer upstairs. It's kind of actually a beast. Nowhere near the beast that's down here. But my initial thought process was just to move that trading station downstairs. But then I told my wife, I'm like, well, then I'm forced to always be down here to do all my trades, and it's in the basement, so I mean, it's not, you know, not as easy as just walking into my office on the first floor. So I decided just to leave that PC and the monitor set up upstairs, so that after stream, I can go up there and trade. And then down here, this new PC is an absolute beast. I actually built it myself. Give me some props. I will take the props on that. That was the most nerve-wracking experience that I've had in a long time, was building this PC. Knowing what parts you got to order, ordering the right parts, getting the parts and not knowing what the heck you're really looking at. And of course, YouTube was a fantastic help. And I was able to build it. And the thing is an absolute beast. It's got a video card that's got 6, what do they call it? DV ports. digital. I know I'm saying that wrong. DP, display port ports. So I can connect 6 monitors directly into the video card. It's got 64 gigs of RAM. It's got, I went with the AMD processor. I've always been Intel, but I went with the AMD processor. And it's a freaking beast, man. It just loads up. Everything loads up fast, super smooth, super happy. All right, we're getting a little pullback here on the ES. Ooh, let's see what happens here. All right, so we got initial reaction right in between my take profit 1 and take profit 2. Area is being defended pretty strongly, though. Let's see. So remember, that's 67.42.50. Oh, well, they kind of defending the 43 is pretty good. So we'll see. So that's the initial sweep. Let's see, this was 42.75, so exactly where I thought we were going to have the reaction. That swept TP1. As far as a footprint confirmation, I did not get one because on the green candle that came down here, we had a positive delta. So I'll give it one more shot here and see what we can get if we get some kind of confirmation right here. Shit. Looks like it went without me here. So remember what I said, 67.42.50. We got the exact reaction at 67.42.75. So a tick above there, 3 ticks above my entry. And that's probably, I mean, that's almost sweeping TP2. So that really sucked. Now my trade starts to lessen because of the fact that we already used up almost 300 contracts right at this initial push to the upside. And that's what I was hoping to get right here, or even at the 50. I mean, obviously one more tick. If I would have got a footprint confirmation, I would have been in that trade for sure, but I didn't get one even at this. The buyers just completely took control there. Michael, I agree with you 100%. AMD is an absolute much better value. It's actually an AMD graphics card that I've got in this one. Upstairs, I've got an NVIDIA. But yeah, I am super pleased as to the performance and the price point that I was able to get all of this at. Gosh darn it. So a good example of what I was explaining to you guys earlier, you know, this is going to happen sometimes. You know, I was off by 3 ticks on the entry, and unfortunately now we took out where I thought price action was going to go very easily, TP1, TP2. So now this setup here at the 67.42, to me, let's just see what. Just not as strong that much anymore. Now they're defending the 40s. 67.40s is where. Let's see if I can do this here. So this area right here now is where they are starting to defend it. I just don't like that there's not too much of a buffer now that I have. All right, let's see what happens here. Let's see what we get. Okay, we tapped in. Nope. No confirmation there yet. No confirmation yet. Nope. Dang it. This might be it. Oh, I was hoping that would turn into a green candle right there. That would have been a perfect one. Nothing yet. Buyers are still pretty strong. Nothing yet. Could be. Nope. Close. That was a close one. Shoot. So just taking a limit order at the entry would have obviously gotten you already TP1. But didn't get the confirmation I was looking for. Setup was right. Setup was perfect. Setup was perfect. And guys, this just keeps going on and on and on. I mean, when I see these setups, it's they're just very consistent, very, very consistent. Got a little unlucky on which I think it was this candle right here. It absorbed 130. This down candle absorbed 137 orders, and we were still able to push up green. Closed positive 12, so really close to a negative delta. Guess you could have maybe made a case for it, but that was a close one. Darn it. Darn it, darn it, darn it. But it doesn't bother me as much as it used to, just because I see them so often that I just know to wait for the next setup. Now, wow, the 40s are really defended. So this 6740 area now is super defended, but now my TP is looking a little sloppy. My TP looks very sloppy now. Honestly, the only really isn't much. Let's see. Honestly, TP2 would be the only logical area that it needs to rebalance, which it does. It absolutely does, even after this move. Let's see. not the right. Market just absorbed negative 244, negative 221, positive. Mark my words, TP2 has to get rebalanced at this point. Oh. You know you want it, ES. Might as well go take it. You know you need it. Buyers are stacked up a little bit stronger than sellers right now, but could be a tug of war right here. Could be a tug of war. Oof. So that one right there could have been it. Just ended up as a doji, not a green candle. I stick to my rules, but this print right here will probably show you a pretty nice move. I can tell you that right now. But I follow my rules. I want to see a green candle, negative delta. This was negative delta at negative 90. Just close as a doge, and just take the TP2. You know you want it. You know you need it. And I'm telling you, once you see this stuff, guys, you can't unsee it. And I will say the sellers are defending that 67.47 to down to the 45s very strongly. Very strongly. But right here, this is the pocket that they need to, you see the displacement to the downside was very strong, very, very strong. So they want to rebalance this area right here. And I just didn't get the right confirmation candle there. Would have made some nice profit on this trade. Hey, Key. Yes, I am back. Back in my new studio downstairs. Pretty excited about it. So funny story, no, it's not my first time actually building a computer. My son built out a gaming PC about maybe 3 years ago. And I had messed around with PCs going back maybe 20 years ago. So I knew the basics. But when we built his PC, there was a lot of new stuff at that time that was new. So I got a little bit of knowledge. Again, we shit our pants building his PC. And then even now with the new parts that just came in for the computer, it was freaking nerve-wracking because there was stuff in there like the hard drive. I know it's not called a hard drive anymore. Well, what's it called? The storage. I don't know. I always call it hard drive. So the hard drive now is like it's like a stick, and I was always used to the IDEs and the the actual physical drives that you had to plug in with a cable. There you go. So there was the rebalancing of TP2, as I told you would exactly happen. So unfortunately, that would have been a fantastic trade. That would have been good for probably a good 4 to 5. No, I'm sorry, 5 to 6 points on the ES. Hopefully, someone took that trade. I just didn't get I didn't get the right confirmation candle I was looking for. I had a lot of opportunities, to be honest with you, and I think a lot of the candles were really, really close to being really good confirmation ones. I just didn't get it. But this just, again, for me, it just reiterates that what I see with volume is what the market needs to do. This line here is not some line that's just drawn up. The 67.47 is not a line that I just put on the chart and say, well, let me lucky. Hopefully I'm lucky and it hits that. Or I want my risk to reward to be set at this percentage, or I want to get this many points. Don't ever say that in the market. I want to get this many points out of the market, because that is a recipe for an absolute disaster. But I put my targets in area that I know that the market needs to rebalance before revisiting another area. It could revisit something higher, or now it could be revisiting something lower. It's pretty balanced right now on the order book, so I wouldn't be surprised if we consolidate here for a while, because it's pretty even. I would say maybe the buyers have a little bit of a slight advantage, but nothing too crazy. And then if we take a look at the NQ. So the NQ, we had a small little movement here, but nothing enough to leave me any clues for a new trade. Nothing here that I would like to take a trade on. I would definitely wait for the setup on the NQ at the 24,935. That's an area that mark it up on your charts. 24,914. That's another area to mark up on your charts. On the ES, remember, we had, let me just see what's going on here. Oh, wow. Big push. So right there would be a footprint confirmation. Sorry. Shit. Right here. Now, again, this would not be a setup that I would take just because I'm giving you this as an example of where I would have taken a trade initially here. We had a green footprint candle with negative delta, negative 15. That would have been my confirmation. Now, I would have wanted to see that over here, okay, because that would have been my trade setup. Now the trade's already played out. Now, can it happen again and us hit TP1 and TP2? Sure. Especially now, actually, it's gonna have some big resistance getting through TP1 at this point. But the initial setup is not there anymore. The setup was here. This would have been a great trade right here, and then I think we got very close to a footprint confirmation right here, which ended up hitting my TP2, and I knew it would. There was no doubt in my mind that this needed to get rebalanced. Pretty simple. All right. So on the ES, the other setup that I would be looking at is at the 6690. This exact entry line is at 6690.75, with TP1 at 6704 and TP2 at 6706. Stop loss at 6694. And again, we already kind of went over the NQ. There is a setup below the NQ that I actually really like, and that's at the 24,823 as an entry. TP1 at 24,830 and TP2 at 24,834. All right, I think I'm gonna call it. From here, I can go upstairs. I can get back onto Discord, put in my signals for my signal group, and maybe take a trade here in the early afternoon here. I'm hoping you guys enjoyed the first day streaming. I hope that you guys, that everyone gets some value out of this. There's it's kind of a big time commitment for me. I'm willing to do it. Hopefully, if people show up and they enjoy the content, like the stream, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and if you are going to be purchasing an evaluation or a funded account through either Funding Ticks, Apex, Take Profit, Trader, or Tradeify, just use my code TraderRob. Doesn't cost you anything extra. Gets you the best discount, like every other content creator tells you the same crap. But it does support the channel smallly, so I appreciate it. I had a lot of fun. Things will get smoother and easier, I think, as each day goes, but hey, at least my PC didn't crash. Microphone went out the first couple minutes, so I had a little bit of indicator issues in the morning, but overall I think it went pretty successful for the first test run. That's what I got. Happy trading. Take care, everyone.